This is where we started the walk off from. This is where the Moor Gate is. And this area is Goose Green. I've seen it on a plan when Bramwood Moor Farm was for sale. And as Bill told me, this is where the drovers used to camp before they could use the Intech. So that's Goose Green. It looks totally different now. And this point here where the little bridge is where the old photograph is taken from, looking at the Intech, looking up towards the Intech farm, which is this direction, obviously. The Intech comes into view there. This is where Ashworth drove his new drift in about 1851, the Bramwood Moor Colliery. As you can see, it started life as a quarry there, and he put his drift in there, and another one up around here, and Bramwood Farm isn't there then in the 1840s. But Intech is. So I've got an early plan, thanks to Bill, of Intech in 1841, and it doesn't look like it's been open that long, a couple of years perhaps. These are interesting further up, old collieries. Now you can actually see disturbed ground there, and I had a ratch around the other day and you can see into some of those. But Ben is right when he talks about a mine being marked like that, with a circle with a line through it. So what those old collieries date from, who ran them, are they just sort of freehold pits? I don't know. There's no history on them. They're not even shown on the Bramwood plan. We know this colliery here now by its official name of Mill Moor. It was on the Spotland Survey 1834. Richard Ashworth, obviously. The Ashworths own this land. Hopefully there'll be a picture, and I forget where I got the photograph from to credit it. But there'll be a picture of one of the Ashworths appearing. It's interesting, is this? We knew it as Part House beforehand. How it straddles the track. The drift went in this direction, but this pit top straddles the track. Is that a building, or is it just a gantry? It would seem strange to block the track off, wouldn't it? Is it just a roof? Now then, is that actually Part Bank drift? It doesn't name coal pit, but it's certainly, we've come to know that is the symbol for coal pit. And this footpath is what Stephen Wellspring's run about, which sort of becomes the incline, doesn't it? The quarry incline when they built the reservoir. But that what throws me, that wall, and how the road goes to that point and then starts again at this point on the other side. Now I think a lot of this has been destroyed by the reservoir down to Part House, owned by the Ashworths. It's not Richard, I forget which Ashworth, but this was his residence for many, many years. And it's also the place that quite a few of the pitmen came to live. The Brealeys came to live at Part Houses. The Butterworths came to live at Part Houses also, which basically makes you think that they worked for Ashworth. They worked in his pits. And I wonder if the Brealeys did come across originally to work at Mill Moor. Now, as I said, Mike Rothwell in 1840 credits the fact that the Brealeys are mine owners at the time. So were they running the Intech? I have another reference to them running a pit between the Intech farm and the Bone House. The Bone House was Bramwood Moor Farm. So they could possibly have done that. Were they running it for Ashworth? I don't know. I don't know at all. It'd be interesting to find out, wouldn't it? So was that Part Bank drift there? And also, what's this ruin? So from there, we kind of wandered up to the rubbing mill, and it's interesting to see all the different paths and tracks that there are now, how they've been changed, and they do show up on Google Earth. The Intech, it's too windy to do a proper video, really and truly. Intech farm. You
cabin. You used to be able to see, just about see the top of the fireplace. No, that was the fireplace there. That's the actual main drift. There was another cabin next to it. Is that the wall off it? Plan shows 2 cabins and the heap behind me. Going up the road, and that was the lay-by for the pit there. You can just see where the loading station was. Well, set edge onto the pit top. There's a set edge, the drift just behind it.
This is a plan of Mr. Lloyd's Bramwood estate, and Mr. Lloyd's land is in the green. Looking at this close-up of that, can you see actually the loading bay, how it protrudes onto the site? So I'm wondering if the wall has been rebuilt at one time and the loading bay was actually a lot deeper. Stood opposite now at Intech farm looking across, and it's impossible to see if the wall actually had been taken down at one time. But it's interesting to look at the abandonment plan from 1886, and we clearly see what looks like 2 buildings and a good view of the Intech farm. That's 1973, when the remains were quite complete. Look at the drift. And this is 1979, where the fireplace was complete. It's amazing, isn't it, how the site has deteriorated. This is John Davis' interpretation of the site, the cabin. This was before he saw the abandonment plan. And if we do go back to that abandonment plan from 1886, it shows what looked like 2 buildings. But I'm wondering if the one arrowed actually isn't just a covered area, a shed for the loading plant.
And that does look like really silly crop edge coal at Intech. An 1844 map, this is what shows us old collieries. Hey up Morgan, man, get out. You see? Just opposite the quarry, little sandstone quarry. There's a shed. Sandrock outcrop in the quarry. The road's up there. Light. The road up to Crag is just above. We made our way up from Intech past the sandstone quarry, and we're now on Parthouse's colliery. You'll see this on the first edition OS map, and it looks like they've got a gantry or a building right across the lane. Still on the pit heap, you can see the drift going in straight in front. The line of the drift, all the bulrush is coming out with all the moisture. And I say it looked like they had a gantry across the road, but why block the lane? Or maybe it was just a roof. See the heap there. No date for the start of this. Like I said, it's an 1840 map, 1841 map. We know about the 1820s, Thomas Livesey, who had Count Mill, was supposed to have employed 3 colliers here. That is, well, we've got that written down. Whether it actually was here or not, I'm not sure, but we think it is. Parthouse's drift. There we are, lump of sandrock coal and all. I'm at the top of the incline that they use for building the res, and there's a couple of nice little heaps at the top. One there, and there's a lot of shale, coal amongst it, and picking bits of coal up here. I'm not sure exactly where the head of the incline was. I would imagine it was just a break. Surely you wouldn't need to drag the empties up there. You'd think it'd be self-acting, wouldn't you? So there's one or two interesting little sort of heaps I've come across at the bottom of the crop edge, which makes you wonder if they were here a long time ago. Realised why now, haven't I? It's the top of, this is Park Bank pit, so where the incline comes up to that heap there, there's another little heap here, and behind there's Park Bank cabin, the drift end, another heap there. So where were they getting the stone from? Were it stone they were getting for the reservoir, or was it clay for puddling? And which was the quarry they were getting it from? This is the infrastructure at Park Bank. It looks like they've had a set edge here. And the drift's just going in there. And there's another heap there. So that big fault, that 80 fathom fault, runs up the hill. Maybe it's where that big clough is. There's Park Bank cabin and drift then, there. And you can see it's all falling in just at the back. Another heap up a height. What's quarry? What's pit? There's loads of little heaps. The water loose for it is just down this bank here. This is what the water level, the water loss for Park Bank. That's a heap there. The second heap where near the top of the incline is, and I've just noticed a pile of stones there, like a set edge. So that fault, the 80 fathom fault, must run up this valley here, because the pit didn't go too far this way till it hit that fault. And it looks like there's another bit of a way in behind me as well. So I wonder if they've had two bits of Waterloses at once, at one time. There we are, that's it. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed, you must have done. In front of the green field, remember which way we zoom in on this. Right in the middle now, that circular patch in front of the green field. Looks like it's got a banking all the way around it. There it is, that little platform. And it's obviously out of this quarry. The stone for there, and where the platform is there, like a set edge, the track runs back across the hill then to past Park Bank pit. Is this where they got the stone? I wonder if Stephen knows.
Right chaps, it's a bit hard to see. Me and Ashley just walked down from the Moor gate up here, wiggled it down. There on the right where them reeds are, that's your mill. That's your mill pond banking on across the top, that perfectly top. You see this road now, just go straight on, and that's your old track there. And then if I zoom in, I think that bit of green grass there is my rectangle, where it looks like there's been a rectangular bit of kiln or a rectangular platform or something there. So yeah, next time I come up I'll get my wellies on, I'll try and, well wow, I just walk around the edge of it and walk across to that grass in the middle to see what that is. But this road definitely looks, when you just study here, looks like it just goes in a straight line that way and never went that way. I don't think it went that way if you look on the old map.
Just a little thing to start with. Down at Cout Mill, obviously we can't explore this area anymore because it's all built on. But this is what Dickinson marks on his map. He marks the Holcombe Brook outcrop there. And it's difficult to read, but he says further up that about a quarter of an acre of Holcombe Brook coal, or 10-inch coal he calls it, which is way below the sandrock, has been worked here. I can't read that really. Coal 10-inch thick. I can't really read that. That looks like don't, has been. It's illegible. Some of Dickinson's writing is, but obviously they've been into the Holcombe Brook at the back of there. I don't know who, and that's separate to the Hugh Mill colliery that was into the Holcombe Brook further down Count. Right, so this is Dickinson's overview of the area that we're looking at today with the Intech. Obviously it takes in a little bit more. There we've got the Intech, and it's done on the first ordnance sheet, but as you can see, it's well faded. It's marked on the old Moor Colliery here, Ashworth's. There's the drifts. And now this is the Intech when the Woodheads had it, and I'm taking that to be the drift coming up. There's Rooley Moor Road, look there. And this, when you look on the proper plan, it extends round about as far as where the fork comes in the road, the top road into the crag. There's a park bank drift coming in here. You notice there's no workings this side. These lines, I take them to be the levels and then boards driven up off them. This is the extent. That says they've stopped there because of water. So that's the end of the free draining. And they've obviously put the water level in below Park Bank there. This is the big fault that comes across. If you notice as well, let's just enlarge it a little bit. Can I enlarge? No, I can't. If you'll notice, the old Moor Colliery isn't on. He doesn't mark that on, which was Ashworth's or part houses. It's not marked on at all. But that's the 80 fathom fault that comes up there. Ah, we can move a little bit. Can you see the fault coming up? Then we get to the top of the hill. This is the top road into Crag Quarry coming across here. It's a shame it's so faded. There's a rubbing mill, and this, you can see the fault coming across up here. It's down through 80 yards, not fathoms, 80 yards. This is the Moor Abandondment plan, which basically shows 3 pits on it. It's dated 1886. Now there's the Intech farm, and there's the old Intech drift. I have an early plan of that, 1841. Now sadly, it doesn't show a lot of the old workings. Now I'm taking these workings to be from Richard Ashworth, when in 1834 and before he was working the Part House drift, or Mill Moor as it was called as well, on the bottom road. We can see it on the map. These are the limits of his working. Sadly, it doesn't show the drift on it. Now the old Intech workings, Mike Rothwell says that the Breelys were working coal in 1840. Now I thought it was perhaps Ashworth, but maybe it is the Breelys that were into the Intech, and if so, are these their workings? Ashworth opened up the Moor Colliery after that, around about 1851. Heights Farm is in this field down here. This is a footpath that goes across well, eventually brings you to Elm Clough, doesn't it, past Greens. These are the 2 drifts of Moor Colliery that Ashworth drove. And later on, it was reworked, reopened. David Law went in here along the crop edge and worked that little patch. After Richard Ashworth had died, his son did all these workings in yellow. All this coal obviously went down to Count Mill, the extent of their workings. Now the pink are the Woodhead brothers, John Woodhead. Sadly, it doesn't show their main road coming in like Dickinson seems to show it. But that's the extent of their workings. They started in 1858, and I'm presuming they had a 21-year lease. I don't know if they quite finished the 21 years. They were certainly still there in 1874. And it was then taken over by David Law. Now, I have a feeling that David Law worked at the Intech and he took it on afterwards. I don't know why, but I get that feeling that he did. He's down as Collier on the census. He lived next to John Woodhead for quite a while. Now, David Law's mum remarried after his dad died, and she ended up living on top at Heights Farm, where Ben's been ratching about today. So David Law got all the coal that was left. We go up Park Bank, we can see Park Bank drift there, where David was in. And also we've got the water level underneath. Now you can see that the water level never actually got into his workings. It obviously got into some old workings there, or maybe it was already driven in Ashworth's time, I don't know. There's a little fault that cuts off his workings. That's not the 80-yard fault that cuts the moor. He's obviously stopped there, pushed through a little bit there. We can see the limit of his workings here. That's the top road into Crag Quarry. So obviously the 80-yard fault is going to be round here somewhere. And all these workings stopped advancing this direction because they ran out of free drainage. The water started to gather at this point. Now the only part of a plan we have of Brearley's pit is here, on here. Here it shows Mr. Brearley's straight road. Can we see? And then all this coal that was left by Bramwood Moor and Intech can be got from Mr. Brearley's Bramwood Moor Colliery, because obviously that drift was then draining those workings. So that is a plan and a good overview of Bramwood Moor and the coal that was worked in the Sandrock coal seam there.